Hi, welcome to Class 2 Balanced Nutrition. I'm Jennifer Anthony, registered dietitian with Corporate Health and Wellbeing at St. Alphonsus Medical Center. In today's class, we will be reviewing the different food groups and macronutrients. We will start to discuss how to build a healthy and balanced meal. And we will also discuss the difference between serving sizes and portion sizes and how to read nutrition labels. Additionally, we will provide tips for fullness and satiety, blood sugar and hormone management to help with weight loss, and the importance of having a colorful and nutrient-dense diet. Last week we talked about creating a vision for yourself and understanding your individual reasons for wanting to make healthful changes. We discussed breaking your vision down into smaller, attainable SMART goals that you can work towards your larger vision. Be sure to regularly revisit your vision and motivators for change and set SMART goals to help you stay on track. Try to be flexible. Life happens and our schedules may vary. We are striving here for healthful changes and habits, not perfection. And this journey is what you make it. We are here to support you. Remember to jot down the positive strides you make along the way. Today is an overview of nutrition concepts. We will begin with some basics of nutrition and include meal planning and grocery shopping tips later in the program. Remember that we are here for you if you need individualized support for one-to-one appointments to help you with your nutrition, exercise, and weight loss goals. You may make an appointment on the link below the video. So today I will give you lots of ideas, and you can choose 1 to 2 nutrition areas that you would like to focus on and create SMART goals around those. So let's review what a balanced meal is. A lot of people go right to salads when trying to eat healthier. And while salads are great and can be prepared in a variety of ways, even salads can miss important components for a balanced and healthy meal. And plus, if we're eating salads all the time, that can get boring and we can get burnt out. So we're going to break down healthful eating and provide food tips today that not only can help with weight loss, but can improve your overall nutrition. Remember that most trendy diets are not sustainable. They can be restrictive, eliminate some food groups, and be hard to stick with long term. They may make us feel anxious or unsatisfied and drive us only to think of the foods that are off limits. What does work is following a plan that incorporates knowledge of nutrition, a variety of foods, confidence in making these changes, goal setting, and flexibility. We want to work on behavior changes over time that become healthy habits that are sustainable. Healthy eating should be delicious, feel good, and be satisfying. A brief review of nutrition. There are 4 main food groups: our carbohydrates, protein, fruits, and vegetables. Our carbohydrates are our starchier foods like bread, rice, pasta, and potatoes, even though they're a vegetable. Also, tortillas and cereals. These foods, when we eat them, break down to glucose or sugar, and we use that for energy. For better blood sugar control and other health benefits, we want to choose carbohydrate sources that are higher in fiber, from things like whole grains, whole grain breads, bran and higher fiber cereals, steel-cut oats, whole wheat tortillas and pasta, bulgur, farro, and quinoa. Remember, fiber is our friend. Then we have our animal and plant protein. Research tells us that following a more plant-based diet and increasing our plant sources of protein is better for our heart and overall health. Plant sources of protein are full of fiber and tend to be lower in saturated fat. And these include foods like beans, lentils, nuts and seeds, grains, some vegetables, nut butters, and soy. For animal protein, we want to choose leaner cuts of meat most of the time, like lean ground beef or turkey, sirloin or pork loin with less fat and marbling, lower fat dairy products, and then increasing fish in our diet if you like fish. Fish is very heart healthy because it has omega-3s, especially fattier cuts of fish like salmon, mackerel, tuna, and fish is recommended for heart health about twice a week. Another nutrition goal is having a colorful diet with a variety of whole fruits and vegetables, about 4 to 6 cups per day. So think of eating the rainbow and getting in all those different colors in your diet. This provides us with a diverse amount of vitamins, nutrients, and antioxidants that keep us healthy and lower our risk for different types of cancer and heart disease, providing us with a variety of phytonutrients, vitamins, and antioxidants. Your darker purplish and bluish colored foods are some of the best, and they're higher in an antioxidant called anthocyanin. So think of purple carrots, potatoes, purple cabbage, blackberries, and blueberries. Sometimes you'll see dairy included as a food group, things like milk, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, and ice cream. Dairy is a great source of calcium for our bone health and also provides some protein. Some sources also provide probiotic benefits from cultured bacteria that it's good for our gut, and we find those in things like Greek yogurt and kefir. Due to these foods being animal fats, we still want to aim for lower fat or reduced fat options of dairy products and then watching our portion sizes. Another food group to add into our diet are healthy fats. We want more plant fat in our diet and less saturated and trans fat. And we find those good healthy fats, that mono unsaturated and polyunsaturated fat, in foods like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, canola oil, nuts and seeds, nut butters, and avocados. Another healthy fat is our omega-3s, and we find those in plant sources like walnuts, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and ground flaxseed, in addition to fish and seafood. Note that some foods cross over into multiple categories, like beans are a great source of carbohydrate, plant protein, and fiber, and that many dairy products provide both carbohydrates and protein. When setting up our plate, we don't necessarily need every food group at every meal or snack, but we want meals and snacks throughout the day that include higher fiber carbs, healthy fats, lean protein, and a variety of fruits and vegetables. Balanced meals help our fullness and satiety and blood sugar, so we feel fuller or satisfied longer between meals by including healthy fats, protein, and fiber, and then being well hydrated throughout the day. This can prevent us from overeating or snacking too much, which then reduces our calorie and overall consumption. And over time, this helps us manage our weight and our intake and meet our weight loss goals. We want to work towards being in tune with our hunger and fullness, to eat when we are truly hungry and to stop when we feel satisfied, but not overly full or uncomfortable. When building our plate, especially at meals, we want to focus on making half of our plate non-starchy vegetables, things like leafy greens, broccoli, and cauliflower, etc. Starchy vegetables like corn and potatoes really fit more into the carbohydrate category. Beans can be both in the carbohydrate and protein category. Now, this doesn't mean you can't enjoy those starchier vegetables, just consider them more as carbohydrate. Vegetables like corn and potatoes also tend to raise our blood sugar. All food groups are important, and how we combine our foods can impact the benefits, absorption of important nutrients, and boosting the effectiveness of antioxidants. For example, consuming foods higher in vitamin C helps us with the absorption of iron. So over the last few decades, Americans have been consuming too many starchy and carbohydrate foods and not enough fruits and vegetables and fiber. These changes in eating habits, along with a decrease in activity, are just a couple of factors that have contributed to the rise in weight gain. Additionally, we have greater access to fast food, convenience foods, more highly processed foods, a reduction in cooking skills in households, larger portions, an increase in the intake of salt and sugar, and the affordability of cheaper foods that tend to be higher in carbohydrate and sugar and lower in fiber. We want to get back to eating healthy and balanced meals that are mostly mildly processed or unprocessed, that include all the food groups and moving our bodies daily. Non-starchy vegetables are considered free foods, so enjoy them and keep adding them into your diet. Bulking your plate by adding veggies into things like sandwiches, wraps, lean hamburger or veggie burgers, soups, stews, chilies, eggs, or in casseroles. Vegetables are the lowest in calorie out of the food groups, and they are also some of the most nutrient dense and full of fiber. By increasing vegetables on our plate and reducing the portion sizes of other food groups like carbohydrates, this can help us reduce our calories, manage our blood sugar, and provide us with more health benefits. So a great SMART goal would be to add vegetables at lunch and dinner, and or make our plate 50% of vegetables at meals. We can break this down by striving to have at least one non-starchy vegetable on our plate. So take a few minutes to look through this list and look at the non-starchy vegetables that you like, or being open-minded to trying a non-starchy vegetable that you haven't had in a while. And start by adding these more into your diet and getting them regularly. Macronutrients are the main components for a balanced meal. They are the main categories that fuel our body and include carbohydrates, fat, and protein. We need all three of these components to help our bodies function properly, including having energy and absorbing and utilizing nutrients. It's recommended that our calories are distributed about 45 to 65% from carbohydrate, 10 to 35% from protein, and 20 to 35% from fat. You can play around with this, but if working towards weight loss, you could go on the lower end of the carbohydrate range, increase your lean protein, and then choose your healthy fats. Proteins are used to produce new tissues for growth and the repair of old damaged tissue. Proteins regulate and maintain body functions. Essential hormones used for body regulation also require proteins to function. And enzymes made of proteins are used for digestion, protection, and immunity. Fat is actually very important for normal body functions, acting as the backbone to important hormones, insulation for nerves, skin, and hair health. They are our high energy source that helps us absorb vitamins and insulate the body. While nobody is saying you have to get rid of bacon completely from your diet, the ideal balance is to have more healthy fats in our diet than unhealthy ones. So focus on getting more plant fat and less animal saturated fat, and then no trans fat for our cholesterol and heart health. Carbohydrates provide fuel for our central nervous system and energy for working muscles. They also prevent protein from being used as an energy source and enable fat metabolism. They are important for brain function and can influence mood and memory. There are simple and complex carbohydrates. Our simple carbohydrates are absorbed quickly, things like refined grains, white rice, or sugar. This causes our blood sugar to spike or rise faster. Complex carbohydrates, on the other hand, have fiber, and we find these in things like vegetables and whole grains. Again, fiber helps us digest carbohydrates slower, provides good bacteria for our gut, helps our appetite and fullness, and lowers our risk for things like colon polyps and cancer. Fiber also helps to improve our blood sugar and cholesterol, so fiber is our friend. If the meals we eat are not macronutrient balanced, it can affect the way our body functions. If we are eating unbalanced meals, we may gain weight or lose weight in an undesirable way. And we may not feel as energetic, or we may lose muscle mass, strength, or bone density. Lowering carbohydrate too much in the diet is a downfall of very low carb diets. Often people on very low carb diets find them hard to sustain long term. They may feel low in energy, have trouble sleeping, or are easily agitated. Here's an example of a balanced and colorful plate. We have our grilled chicken for lean protein and fat, quinoa for our carbohydrate and fiber, and then our vegetables that provide us with different vitamins and fiber. We could top this plate off with some healthy fat, like a drizzle of lemon and extra virgin olive oil. If you struggle with vegetables and find them to be bland or boring, consider adding them or mixing them into other foods, or flavoring them with different herbs and spices that you like. Also lemons, limes, and vinegars. Dash or Perfect Pinch are great options that you can find at the store. They are pre-blended herbs and spices, and most of them are salt-free. They come in a variety of flavors, or any other pre-blended seasoning that you like to make your vegetables more flavorful. By pairing higher fiber carbohydrates with protein, this can help manage our blood sugar. For weight loss, a calorie deficit is just one piece of the puzzle. We also want to manage our blood sugar. So instead of our blood sugar spiking, rising, and falling throughout the day like a roller coaster, we can sustain it better by eating balanced meals and snacks that include protein and fiber. Managing our blood sugar helps with weight loss and creates sustained energy throughout the day. Some people may have more success long term on a modified keto diet that isn't so restricted or too low in carbohydrate, and on a balanced diet that includes a variety of foods and macronutrients like a heart-healthy Mediterranean diet. Your first food tip for today is eating breakfast with protein. Protein helps us to feel fuller or satisfied longer. If we eat breakfast, this can help boost our body's overall performance and then not be so hungry by lunchtime, as well as managing our blood sugar. Some people don't do well with breakfast right after they wake up, but even a mid-morning snack can help us feel not so hungry by lunch. And research tells us that people that generally eat breakfast tend to eat less throughout the day and have better controlled blood sugar. Breakfast can be challenging as it feels like there isn't as many options or variety. So here are some examples on the slide of a healthy and balanced breakfast. If you need something easier on the go, a lower sugar protein shake or protein bar can be good options. Our bodies typically do not like starting off empty, which can make us feel groggy, increase our stress, or cortisol levels. While there are some benefits to fasting, especially not eating too late at night or right before bed, skipping meals typically leads to overeating later and reaching for quick energy sources. It's like going to the grocery store when we're starving. We'll reach for quick and easy, convenient type foods instead of nutrient-dense options. The cycle can then be famine, or feast. And we want to break that cycle and break the fast. So here's food tip number 2, pairing carbohydrate with protein at meals and snacks. By pairing carbohydrates with protein, this helps keep our hormones and our blood sugar in check throughout the day, which will help us release our weight and create sustained energy. So here are some examples on the slide of carbohydrate and protein snacks. Portions are an important part as we consider our food choices. A serving size is the standard amount and is what we'll read on the back of a nutrition label. This is based on the average American in a diet of about 2,000 calories per day. However, every person's needs, serving sizes, and portions will be different. For example, a male who's 6'4" will have greater calorie and protein needs than a female who's 5'2". A portion is how much we take or eat, which may be more, less, or equal to the serving size, like a bowl of Cheerios or pasta, for example. We don't necessarily have to use measuring spoons or cups to figure out our portion sizes. We can use visual cues like a fist for 1 cup or the tip of our thumb for a tablespoon. Portions aren't only challenging at home, but they can be challenging when we eat out. Here's an example of a portion versus a serving size. So we have 1/2 cup of spaghetti pictured on the right is 1 serving. If we eat 2 cups of spaghetti, our portion size pictured on the left, we are actually eating 4 servings. Now, this doesn't mean that we never eat more than a serving. However, practice putting a serving size in front of you to start with and seeing how you feel at the end of eating it. You may need more, but sometimes not as much as you were previously eating. The portion sizes of most foods sold for immediate consumption far exceed the recommended serving sizes. Our perception of what a serving size is has been altered by the increasing availability and marketing of larger food portions. We call this portion distortion. Also, the sizes of plates have increased since the 1970s to about 7 inches to 11 inches. We also tend to eat more when dining out, wanting more for our money. When dining out, here's some tips of ways to control our portions. Skipping the appetizers, sharing a meal, taking half of the meal home for later, choosing balanced meals that include vegetables or upping our vegetables, being careful of how many rolls, breadsticks, chips we consume prior to the entree, being mindful of the portion of toppings at salad bars, including cheese and dressings, being mindful of sweetened beverages that we may consume, and drinking our calories. It's also okay to leave food on your plate. Many people struggle with this because they may have been told as kids to clean their plate. We want to enjoy our food, eat mindfully and slowly, and feel comfortably satisfied without feeling overly full or uncomfortable. So you have our permission to leave food on your plate, take it home for later, or share a meal, but you want to eat till you feel satisfied and comfortably full. Typically in the US, we are over-consuming our starchier carbohydrates like breads, pastas, rice, etc. We also have more processed and convenience foods that are higher in carbohydrate and lower in fiber. We want to try and keep our servings of carbohydrates to about 1 cup or less, or 1/4 of our plate, and then choose ones that have more fiber. So let's say we're having spaghetti for dinner. We want to try to keep our serving of pasta to 1/4 of our plate, and then adding our sauce, and then adding in a vegetable, like making half of our plate our salad. We can also up our vegetable intake by adding veggies into our pasta sauce, like additional tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, peppers, or squash. As stated before, a serving of pasta is about 1/2 of a cup. However, many of us are dishing up 3 to 4 of those portions. We often do this to fill our plate. So we want to try to fill our plate with a variety of other foods, including vegetables, which contribute to the bulk of the meal, plus adding in our protein and heart-healthy fat, which then provides satiety. So let's compare serving sizes, especially when dining out. It's nice to get more for our money, but we have to think of the bigger picture and consider that sometimes smaller portions or intake are better for our overall health. Again, if the serving is large, we can share this meal or take it home later. So take a look at this burrito as an example and the difference between the two. Often, if a larger portion of food is put in front of us, we have a higher chance of overeating. So here's another example of a serving versus a portion size. As you can see, 1/2 of a bagel is 1 serving. If you enjoy bagels, thin bagels are a great option, or choosing bagels on occasion as they are higher in calories and carbohydrates. Other options could be whole grain or seeded breads that have more fiber in place of a bagel. Also lettuce wraps or a wrap in a whole wheat tortilla. Here are examples of serving sizes of cheese. So remember, 3 ounces is about the size of the palm of your hand. So we have our shredded cheese, which is about 3 ounces. We have our 2 ounces of cheese, which is equal to about 3 to 4 dice. And then we have our cheese stick, which is equal to about 1 to 1.5 ounces of cheese. The serving size for protein is about 3 to 4 ounces, or the size of the palm of our hand. For protein, we want to consider leaner cuts of meat most of the time, and increasing our intake of plant protein sources, as these are lower in saturated fat. Another way to measure our protein is making it about 1/4 of our plate. So take a look at these visual examples of serving sizes. So 8 crackers are about the size of a hockey puck and equal to 1 carb serving. 2 teaspoons of mayonnaise are equal to about 2 dice. So a 2-ounce patty of lean hamburger is about the same size as a deck of cards. And a 2.5-ounce chicken breast is also about the same size as a deck of cards. So 1 apple or fruit serving is equal to about a tennis ball, and then 2 cups of leafy greens are equal to 2 baseballs. Again, our goal for fruits and vegetables are to try and get 4 to 6 cups per day, with the majority of that coming from non-starchy vegetables. There are campaigns like 5 a day, which encourage having about 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. We can include these foods not just at meal times, but for snacks as well. These foods ensure we are getting enough fiber, vitamins, nutrients, and antioxidants. And there are times when we might eat a larger portion of fruits and vegetables, which count as more than 1 serving, such as with a salad. So nuts and seeds are a good example of a healthy food that we still have to watch the portion size of, because they are higher in calorie. So any food that is higher in fat, even that good monounsaturated fat, will be higher in calories. This also goes for avocados, olive oil, and nut butters. Nuts and seeds are both nutrient dense and calorically dense, so we want to try and keep the serving size to about 1 ounce or partial palm of our hand. So let's break down the nutrition facts label, which can be overwhelming with a lot of information, including grams and percentages. But let's start at the top with the serving size. This is a very important part of the label. For example, a can of soup could be 2.5 servings, not just 1 serving. So knowing what the serving size is important. And then below that is our calories. As we age, our caloric needs go down, and then how many calories we need will also depend on how active we are. If we have decreased activity or movement, we need less calories. Things that can help us manage our calories and portion sizes are being in tune with our hunger and fullness cues, and then practicing mindful and intuitive eating. But sometimes we may need more than a serving or a larger portion. But if we're trying to lose weight or manage our weight, we want to be aware of how many calories we're consuming. Some other areas of the nutrition label to look at are how much saturated fat or trans fat is in a product. We want to keep our saturated fat low and trans fat as low as possible in our diet for heart health. We find trans fat in highly processed, high-fat foods and ones that are hydrogenated. How much sodium a product has is also important for heart health. We want to stay under 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. Some people may need additional sodium for certain conditions, but most Americans were exceeding the amount of sodium or salt due to more convenience foods, processed, and fast food. Is this product a good source of fiber? Well, for 2/3 of a cup, it's about 4 grams of fiber, so pretty good. For women, we want to try to get about 25 grams of fiber per day, and for men, about 35 grams of fiber per day. Does this product have natural or added sugars? Well, if we look at the total carbohydrate and go down from there, we see that it has about 10 grams of added sugars, or 20%. So this is considered high. When we pay attention to the percentages on the right-hand side, 5% tells us that the product is low in that nutrient, and 20% is considered high. If we're trying to manage our blood sugar or weight loss or have insulin resistance or diabetes, then paying attention to the total carbohydrate is important, and keeping that on the lower end of the carbohydrate range, and then choosing carbs that have more fiber. Fiber is not digested and made into blood sugar or calories, and that's a breakdown of our nutrition facts label. So moving on to some nutrition tips. Skipping meals or snacks can make our body overly hungry, causing us to overeat or overindulge later. It typically takes 15 to 20 minutes for our brain to receive notice that it's full, so it's easy to overeat when we're eating quickly. Also, as we stop paying attention to our hunger cues, our hormones have to work harder to send those hunger and fullness signals to our brain. Sometimes when we go long periods without eating, we may also reach for quick convenience foods and then eat too quickly or more calories than we need. Mindful or intuitive eating is when we slow down and chew our food well and enjoy it. Chewing our food well is the first step to breaking it down for digestion. We will discuss mindful and intuitive eating more in class 4. Mindful eating also means having minimally processed foods available if we get hungry, just in case. Bulking up our meals and snacks with more vegetables and not just as a side on our plate is also a good tip to help with our overall health and wellness. As mentioned before, adding vegetables into other foods like soups, stews, chilies, sandwiches, wraps, into eggs, or on pizza or hamburgers or chicken sandwiches. These all count and go towards our total intake of fruits and vegetables and fiber for the day. So eating balanced meals and snacks is important. When we eat higher fiber foods, including whole grains and fruits and vegetables, pair our carbohydrate with protein and healthy fats, we feel fuller or satisfied longer between meals and snacks, as well as hydrating well. So now that you have a good idea of macronutrients, food groups, and portion sizes, should we expect to eat perfectly all the time? No, we don't want to focus on or strive for perfection. We want to focus on sustainable solutions for our health and weight management, and thinking in terms of which foods provide us with the most health benefits. The 90-10 rule takes into account that we can enjoy the occasional treat, but that this treat doesn't mean that we've completely fallen off the wagon. So the 90-10 rule means that about 90% of the time we're going to have mostly nourishing foods and some 50-50 foods, while the remaining 10% we fit in some of those fun foods or treats. This works in the long run by allowing ourselves to enjoy life and the delicious foods that life has to offer, while also focusing on nourishing our bodies. There may be occasions where we overindulge or overeat, like holidays, barbecues, or vacations. We connect with friends and family over food, and for many, it's how people comfort others and show love and connection. Food is also a part of cultures, religious practices, and traditions. It's okay to overindulge sometimes, but if we are overeating too often, the first step is to be aware of this, not to have guilt or feel bad or blame yourself, but to be aware of this habit and continue to practice the 90-10 or even 80-20 rules if the 90-10 feels too restrictive. We don't want to strive for a trendy diet, but work on healthy changes over time that are enjoyable, sustainable, and feel good. So instead of an all or nothing mentality that leads us to eat perfectly during a diet or trendy 30-day challenge where we tend to go back to our old behaviors after the 30 days, We want to find balance that leads to long-term and sustainable changes that feel good. Culture of restriction can lead to stress, binging, and guilt around certain foods. The less we use words like good and bad or completely avoiding fun foods, typically the more long-term sustainable our eating plan will be. If you feel you struggle with overeating, additional counseling or therapy or support may be needed. Here are some additional tips that may help you with portion control. Using smaller plates, dishing yourself smaller amounts to start and then going back for seconds if you're still hungry. Keeping the food off of the table so you have to physically get up to get more if needed. After dishing yourself, put away all of the other food in the fridge or in leftover containers. Have a designated area where you eat at home or at work, where you can practice mindful eating and be free of distractions. Slowing down when eating and then waiting 15 minutes before going back for seconds if needed. Pre-portioning items that you may tend to overindulge in, like snacks. Not eating out of the container or tub, but dishing yourself up a portion, putting the food away, and then sitting down and enjoying the portion. Being hydrated and drinking plenty of fluid each day, including water or unsweetened teas, is also important. Sometimes we may feel hungry or overeat when we're actually not hydrated enough. For some, macronutrients, the healthy eating plate, and portions might seem like realistic goals, and that is great. But for some, it may seem difficult or like a huge undertaking. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So take one step at a time and make 1 to 2 achievable goals at a time. Remember, small changes can turn into new and healthy habits, and habits will lead to lasting change. A few examples of goals you might decide to make for this week. If vegetables aren't ever included in your lunch or dinner, then work on adding at least 1 serving. If your meals tend to be all carbohydrate, then work on adding more protein. You are the one setting your realistic goals for success. Choose your goals that you want to focus on and then make them into a SMART goal. Take a look at some of the examples on the slide, and you can choose 1 or 2 of these to work on or something else that you would like to work on. I encourage you to look back to your motivators and your vision here if you are struggling. You can also find a mantra or quote that helps bring you back to your healthy choices. Some approaches that can help us stay on track include eating breakfast with a protein to help us start our day, balancing our macronutrients. If you want to up your game, focus on getting each macronutrient at every meal and snack. Going back to healthy eating plate, focusing on making half of our plate non-starchy vegetables, things like leafy greens, broccoli, etc. Those starchy vegetables like potatoes or corn fit more in the carbohydrate category. Non-starchy vegetables are considered free foods, so enjoy them and keep adding them into your eating plan. So today we went over a lot. So now it's time to focus on 1 to 2 things that you want to make your goal around this week. And remember, your participant booklet is here to help you. So find something that stuck out to you today and make your goal around that. This week's focus is on food tracking. If you're interested in tracking your nutrition, you may do so in a notebook or using an app like MyFitnessPal or Lose It. MyFitnessPal has a free version and a great database of foods, brands, and restaurant information. They also have a premium paid version that includes being able to scan barcodes of foods with your smartphone and pulling that nutrition label information into the app. Tracking nutrition can be tedious, so it may be good just to do it short term to assess your own diet and habits. You may log your nutrition, exercise, and fluid intake and then look back at it at the end of the day. Did you meet your fluid goal? Did you meet your steps? Did you meet your vegetable goal? Other reasons to log nutrition include looking at your sugar, sodium, and fiber intake. Or maybe you need to track your carbohydrates for blood sugar control. When using an app, it's good to look at the whole picture to make sure you're following a healthy and balanced diet and not just focusing on calories alone. Tracking is like doing some homework on ourselves to assess our food and exercise habits and to observe where we are starting from. We don't want to strive for perfection or obsess over tracking, though. We still want to remain flexible. These are just tools to educate ourselves to make healthy changes and adjustments. Maybe we find that we're having higher sugar treats or snacks more often than we realize, or not getting enough vegetables in our diet. So a goal for this is I'm going to track my nutrition for most days over the next 1 to 2 weeks. If you choose to track your nutrition in a notebook, CalorieKing.com is a good website to look up ingredients and nutrition information. There are also menu planning apps and options in some apps where you can take a photo of your meal and it will provide the nutrient analysis. The goal of tracking nutrition isn't to add more stress on ourselves, but to check to make sure that our diet is balanced and healthy and that we're meeting our overall vitamins and nutrients. It helps us increase our awareness of our caloric intake as well if we're trying to lose or manage weight. Tracking is one more way to help ourselves stay accountable. It can help us recognize if we're meeting our goals and allows us to make decisions. It helps us learn what we're eating, practice mindful eating, and raising awareness of when we're eating. You may be underestimating those little snacks or sweets between meals, and tracking will help you recognize what and how much you're eating. It may also help you determine food triggers or food intolerances. Lastly, and very importantly, if you just inhaled a bag of Doritos, because face it, those are the best, you might think your diet is completely ruined and that there's no point in continuing on. People who can't lose weight or maintain weight loss often have this mindset. Instead of despairing over small deviations from your diet or beating yourself up or feeling like you have failed, keep going. Keeping a food journal and self-tracking allows you to see exactly how much or little your choices affect your goals. Write it down and note how you want to make different decisions and feel good writing them down. The big tip around food tracking is looking at something one time versus 10 times on your food trackers. Don't worry about one treat on your journal. We're wanting to take steps towards reducing the 10-time habits. So this week's healthy habit is encouraging you to increase your non-starchy vegetables at meals and snacks, especially if you struggle with this. So start with the ones that you like and getting more of these in your diet. Maybe revisit a vegetable that you haven't had in a while and being open-minded to trying it again, making half of your plate those non-starchy vegetables or including these as snacks. Remember, adding vegetables into other foods or flavoring them with herbs and spices that you like. So congratulations, you've completed week 2, Balanced Nutrition, and we'll see you next week.